Hey there, it's Dr. Ashley Southard
and Dr. Julie Anné.
And we are back for another episode of From Hunger to Fulfillment, where we answer your questions with straight answers.
We are really excited because this month is National Eating Disorders Awareness Month, and we are going to be addressing your questions regarding everything related to eating disorder treatment, awareness, and prevention.
Absolutely.
Which is in both of our hearts, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And we have the perfect question today for that very issue.
We actually do. We were given a question by a 25-year-old new mother from Portland, and she writes, "Thank you so much for your show. I appreciate your help and support. I am a new mother of a wonderful 18-month-old daughter." Aw, so sweet.
It is.
While I am very happy, I am also concerned that I will somehow pass down my past eating disorder to her. I am now fully recovered, but I am petrified that I will hand down this disorder to my lovely daughter.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
It's a great question, and it's an issue that we hear a lot about from our clients who are so concerned, such loving parents who only want to, really give the best to their child, to the next generation, but have a lot of concern and trepidation about how exactly to do that given their own history.
Yeah. And I'll tell you that we hear this a lot of times from our clients, and for good reason. Unfortunately, because of the genetic and the biochemical aspect of eating disorders that we are now aware of, if you have had an eating disorder yourself, even if you are now fully recovered, your children are going to have a 3 to 12 times greater likelihood of developing an eating disorder themselves.
Right.
Now, I want to emphasize that that is only because of the genetic and biochemical loading. So with eating disorders, we like to call it the perfect imperfect storm. So there's a number of different factors that if they are present and they come together and there's enough of them, it will end up in the creation of an eating disorder. But if you have one or two and you do other preventative means, especially related to upbringing, then there's a good chance that you can actually bypass those predisposing factors. So let's actually talk about some of those today.
Yes, because there's a lot of hope in that you really can, defy those odds and help your daughter really grow up to be a very normal, happy eater.
Yeah, and I do have to emphasize that is what eating disorder awareness is all about. Not just our awareness of how many there are, but awareness of how to prevent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the first tip that is really near and dear to my mother heart is responding to your child's natural hunger and fullness cues. So you can really start the prevention efforts today, right? So when babies are born, they are born with an innate tendency to know when they're hungry and to stop when they're satisfied. So they will cry when they want to be fed, and they will push the breast or the bottle away when they're satisfied. They don't naturally want to overeat or undereat. So the beautiful thing about this is you can really depend on your child to tell you when they're hungry and when they're full. And your task then is to really trust that and respond to that.
I'm sorry to
interrupt.
interrupt.
That's okay.
I love that. And, as they then get older, especially as you go into toddlerhood, and there is more ability for your children to vocalize, I want to eat this, I don't want to eat this. A lot of times, especially what a new parent will do is you get very anxious. I want to make sure that my child is eating enough and eating a variety. And that's right and that's correct, but you can inadvertently start getting into a power struggle regarding food, and you can actually take your children away from those natural hunger cues.
That's right.
So what we like to do is to say, make a variety of foods available, model that eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full, kind of engaging with all foods. And if your child says, I'm not hungry or I don't like this food, watch your own level of anxiety. Allow your child to have that space, maybe offer a couple other options, or just say, okay, well, let's leave it on the plate, and then after dinner, if you are more hungry, then come back and you can then eat a little bit more of the supper.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to remember that children's bodies are little.
Yeah.
So they tend to be eaters who like to eat pretty frequently. They tend to be snackers and grazers, maybe a lot more than us adults are. So respecting that they're not necessarily going to follow this 3 big meal a day type of eating, they may want to eat little snacks throughout the day. And so offering a variety of snacks, some are going to be more nutritious, some are going to be less nutritious. All of it is okay in moderation. And really trusting that they will tell you when they're hungry and they will tell you when they're satisfied.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I have 2 daughters myself, and when they were young and I was an anxious mother regarding some of these issues, I remember my pediatrician saying to me, you really want to look at what they eat over a week's period of time. Okay, and if over that week period of time they're eating enough and they're eating enough variety, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so it is so important from an eating disorder prevention perspective not to have a lot of anxiety over food, and we want to be able to support our children's natural hunger cues, which you're really born with, and not socialize them away from those wonderful hunger cues.
Right. And they're also naturally curious about food. So when we get into power struggles, when we mandate that they eat 4 bites of this or they have to try this before they can get dessert, it really takes the fun and the curiosity that kids naturally have around food. So let it be a fun sensory experience. Let them play with it. Let them touch it and smell it without the expectation that they're going to eat a certain quantity of it. Because I promise you, in time, they will come around, they will learn how to nourish their body and what types of foods really make them feel good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
Great point.
So another tip I was thinking about is really promoting a very healthy, body neutral, and no diet culture in the home environment where the child is growing up, right? I think this is paramount.
Yeah, it is paramount. And again, I want to emphasize there is so much that we can do. Our kids are exposed to the media and our kids are exposed to peers. But if from a very young age within the family culture and the household, there's a wonderful, healthy, body neutral experience, it's going to help prevent. Right. So what is a body neutral experience? Well, the absolute first thing is that we never want to comment either positively or negatively regarding other people's bodies. In fact, bodies should actually not be associated with good or bad. Bodies should not be associated, with a descriptor of, really weight. I mean, we can talk about people have all shapes and sizes, and that's kind of the natural state of the range of bodies. But we never want to connect a label to that. We don't want our children ever to hear that this is a more positive quality for somebody to be thinner or it's a negative quality for somebody to be heavier. They hear that from a very young age and they really grab hold of that. So we want to be able to not make any of those comments whatsoever. And we also want to have that modeled regarding our own body.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and I would say an extension of that then is to really refrain from making comments about your child's body. It's so natural for us to say, oh, you're so cute, and when they're little, oh, I love your legs, or this or that. And while that's very innocent and coming from a very loving place, we really want to stay away from making any comments about our child's physical appearance and instead really focus on all of the wonderful qualities about them that make them unique and that make them such an awesome kid. So focusing on the fact that they're so kind or that they're so helpful or that they really put a lot of effort into this particular exercise or activity and you really notice that. Praising those types of comments will really help build a very solid sense of self-esteem that they will be able to come back to in those later years when there is a lot of media influence, when there are a lot of peer influences going on around. They can come back to that sense of self that they know inside you think the world of them and it doesn't matter what they look like.
Yeah. You want to form an identity that's based on internal attributes and qualities and not on physical appearance. So that when they grow up, they say, I am a kind person and I am a good friend and I have a really good sense of humor and I am smart.
Yes.
Okay? There's nothing about appearance there. So that really becomes their core. And we form that very, very early on. I think too many times parents try to address body image issues in adolescence. And unfortunately, a lot of these core beliefs and identity about yourself has already been shaped. And guess what? It starts at 18 months. Okay? So really watch your language. Focus on the internal attribute and not the outer appearance. Again, even if it's positive, we think we're doing our kids a favor by saying positive things about their appearance, and for the most part, we're not.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, because the message that's being sent is
Yeah.
that is what's important.
Yeah. And I'm noticing what you look like.
Yeah.
Okay?
So if it changes, I'm going to notice that too,
Right.
and there will be an associated judgment around that that's either a good change or a bad change.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think that that's a good start.
I think so,
At
too.
least we hope that that's a good start. I love that you are asking this question when your child is 18 months. We have a lot of power as parents, and we have even more power as parents when our children are really young. Okay?
Yes.
They're a sponge, and we are in this position where they really take in what we say to them, and we can use that to their benefit if we are aware and we really give them messages that are going to help them to love themselves from the inside out.
Yes. So thank you for the wonderful question. It really gave us a wonderful opportunity to speak on a topic that really is so relevant to this month's National Eating Disorders Awareness Month. So thank you. Your daughter is so lucky to have a mother like you who cares so much to ask these questions and make sure you're doing right by her. So thanks for tuning in. We hope you found this helpful, and we will most definitely be back soon with another wonderful question. If you have a question that you are wanting to ask, please go ahead and submit it to the address below, and we might be able to answer it in an upcoming segment.
We look forward to it.
Yeah.
You take care. Have a wonderful couple of weeks. Bye-bye.